Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
Hello guys, welcome to our show. Today we discuss about writing, how you can write for getting much better user experience, because today it's not a good time to cheat or game any system, any platform like Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, because you need to satisfy user intent and think more about user experience to help and support others. Today I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Yuval Keshtcher. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me, Anatoly. Super happy to be here today.
For me, it's a big pleasure, especially, when I have topics about copywriting, writing, because I'm passionate about that. I love writing. I spend so much time with writing. It's not only about articles, comments, anything, So if I have the chance to write, I usually do it. Before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about UX writing.
All right. So I have pretty much diverse background. I started writing when I was probably 10 years old in elementary school. But I never considered it as like a career path or anything like that. To be honest, I never thought I would have a career. Most of my life, I thought I'm a big disappointment and nothing will get out of me. But, I did many things, trying to find my place in the world. After I did the military army, which is mandatory in Israel. I was in the special forces of the Israeli army. And then I was looking for something interesting to do with my life. So I did weird stuff. I immigrated to Canada for a while, worked there as a salesperson for cosmetics. Then I started my web design business, started building websites for clients in Canada, moved to New York, did some real estate, realtor thing over there. I think that during my way, I was pretty much good with sales. So sales is something I was always doing pretty well. In addition to that, I was always dipping my toes in graphic design. So I did graphic design as well. When I was also a law student for a while, which brought me back to writing. I dropped out of law school, went back to graphic design. When the graphic design didn't work out, I transitioned to UX design. And then I mixed all of the things I know, which is writing, design, user experience, sales, and built a new company, which is the UX Writing Hub, which is the largest educational platform for UX writers around the world. I was also working as a UX person for different companies and startup companies for many years. And that's where we are today.
Nice. Love your experience. Okay, let me share my story. I remember 12 years ago, I had a team of copywriters who wrote about anything. We wrote about weight loss, health, finance, anything. They didn't have experience with that. They just, they took content in the top 10 results, rewriting, and that's it. Google ranked well, but things change. Today it doesn't work. Of course, we change our approaches as well. I see the biggest problem today when copywriters are trying to satisfy Google or social media, but not human being. Google serves a human being, and today it's important to write for a human being. Can you tell how to how to write text that people wanna read? For example, I love reading, and I remember Stephen King shares two methods how you can improve your writing. First method, to read a lot. The second method, to write a lot. So, two methods, nothing special. And I love reading, but many books, especially about business books, they are good for sleeping. You can read them and lose your attention, think about something else, and sleep well all night. Especially if you have problems with that, you don't need to buy any pills, medicine, for sleeping. You just can take some boring book to read and forget about anything. Content on this book. And once I had the conversation with Jim Edwards, and he worked 10 years in Business Insider, and he told me their success depends on writing text, non-boring text in boring niche. So they wrote exciting, interesting text in boring niche. And I see it's a big issue with many writers. They usually write generic text, not interesting, without sharing any stories, or even if they share, it's not interesting to read. Can you tell from your experience how to write text that people want to read, that can catch our attention, retain readers when to read the entire copy?
So this is a really good question. And there are many ways to answer this question. So I will just try to do my best here, based on my experience. When we're talking about content that you create for Google specifically for SEO, so sometimes you don't need to write the most interesting stuff. I know it can't be generic because actual people need to actually read it and understand it, but the business goal of Google is that people will find information as fast as possible. So, for example, it will be a very good idea to understand what kind of questions your audience might ask and make sure that the content you create is good enough that it tackles all of the things that they ask. For example, the other day I had a rat in my flat. That was the worst experience I ever had in my life. And I called this exterminator guy in the middle of the night because I definitely couldn't handle this situation myself. And we found ourselves talking about SEO, and he told me, "Listen, I want to be on the first page of Google with my website." And I was thinking to myself, and I was like, "Okay, what was the first question that I had in my head before I invited this person?" And my question for me, as the reader, I guess, was, "Do I have a rat or a mouse in my flat?" Because I didn't know the difference. So I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm pretty confident that if you write a blog post about the differences between rat versus mice, for example, many people would look at that difference and then they will land on your page, and then probably they will take your services as an exterminator because that's the reason they ask it, because they also have a rat or a mice in their flat." So the content don't necessarily need to be that great or tell a story and to be crazy good. You just need to answer my question as the potential customer or something like that. So that's one way to tackle it. With that being said, I like to call it, when I create content, and I do create a lot of content and a lot of blog posts as well, I say one for the robots, one for the people. So the one for the robots is the one that, it will get ranked, it will be a nice listicle, probably it will land on sweet keywords that people would look, and it will work. It still work. Even 12 years after, you can still fill up some keywords and it will work, and you will be on the first page of Google if you did the right research, if you answered the questions that people actually ask with your content. And then I do also one for the people, the one that don't necessarily get ranked, but will be fascinating and interesting and will share a really interesting case study, probably minimum ranking, but it will be very educational. People will share it on social media, and it will be good. So my tip, to do that, is to do one for the people and one for the robots. And the one for the robots still don't need to be for robots. It still needs to be professional and not generic. It should tackle the exact questions that people asking in order for Google to land it specifically on your website. If it could tell a story, that's great. But sometimes you just need to say one sentence, I don't know, what the square root of 64? I don't know. So anyway.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
Okay, let's talk about you share an example that you readers probably want to get answers. Not probably, yeah, exactly. They want to get answers. Can you tell how to learn what kind of questions they have? Because I see when websites usually use tools, well-known tools like iChira, SEMrush to find these questions, but in most cases, tools share the average data. It doesn't mean that all websites have all products need to reply to the same questions. And I found that many companies ask their customers, readers on social media, in many other places to know what kind of questions they have. Can you tell from your experience how to get this data before writing any text, how to research and understand what kind of questions my audience has, and how to give the right reply to them?
So a good attribute that a writer might have is to be very, it doesn't matter if you're a UX writer, a content marketing person, SEO writer, it doesn't matter, to have good empathy, to understand your reader and to understand what question they might have, even if you don't have the data. You need to think what's happening in their head. If you don't know, you can just ask them. You can ask your readers, hey, like, what, just interview them, take some feedback, take some questions from your readers, and also be empath. Means that you probably can predict what questions they will have. Like, for example, if you're building an article that comparing different tools, probably your readers will care about the pricing of those tools. So if you add a pricing component to every tool that you write about, it will increase the likelihood that it will give them more value, they will spend more time on the page, and then you get better ranking at the end of the day. So think about the outside of the box, about the components that people would care about while reading your content. In addition to that, you have all of those tools that you've mentioned. There is this very famous method that probably your listeners know about, the skyscraper technique, right? You go to the name of this guy is Brian from Backlinko, right?
Brandin,
He's
yeah.
talking exactly. So he's talking about go to SERP, like the first few page results, see what others are writing about, and a lot of time there is a reason that those people got the right ranking, and that's because they understood what questions people ask. You could just copy those and just write it in a better way, and then add on top of that another layer that will give value, and there's a big likelihood that you'll get ranked. Of course, in addition to backlinks and the internal links, and you know the drill basically.
What do you think about rewriting? Rewriting is that today, do we need to consider rewriting, or it's better to create all the time something new, unique that can, to help in another way? For example, why I'm asking about that, I often ask my friends about the new movie, and the most popular reply, nothing special. I watch the same movies, the same plot, and I see the same issue with website content. For example, if I'm looking for information, I can open one website. If I open the second and get totally the same information, I bounce quickly because I'm not interested to read twice the same content. But I see webmasters still copy, replicate content from their competitors. Can you tell about rewriting? For example, if I'm using skyscraper technique from Brian Dean, I need to learn what my competitors do, even if I create something better. But it's the same information. In that, what do you think about that?
So that's what I'm saying, to add another layer of value on top of that, like that pricing component I was talking about, or I think Brian Dean talks a lot about these diets, paleo diet that he writes about. So always add, like, I never wrote about diets before. I'm not a big diet fan myself, but probably techniques of how to do it. And to be honest, when doing the skyscraper technique, it's not about what the other people wrote about, which is that's okay, but it's about understanding what is missing. So what I like to do is to cross like 5 blog posts that pop up on the first page and see, okay, like to be smart enough and see, okay, there is a missing component here. I'm going to be the one that will write that missing component, and that's what will give me the value, and what will give my audience the value that will bring me on the top page of Google. So that's about it. Another thing about rewrite. So I recommend to also iterate on your own content. If you see that you have content that perform well, don't let it fade. Always keep it up to date. See how you can improve it, because and I don't walk the talk here, because I have a lot of like, blog posts that are fading these days, and I'm pretty sure that like with very low effort I could improve them and iterate on them and maintain the traffic. Uh, because that's what you should do. But like I'm not doing it constantly. I should do it better. But I recommend
Yeah,
to do that as well.
nice, nice. Okay, let's talk about another aspect, simplicity. I see when writers, they write a lot, but hard-written sentences, a lot of terminology, many other stuff. Even if they have the audience, I don't know, PhDs or with other high degrees, people love simple content. They have no time to figure out what you are actually saying and something like this. And I remember one interesting quote from Einstein, and he told, if you can't write in simple way, then you don't understand what you're writing. So it's something like this.
Mhm.
Can you tell how to simplify content? How to create content that it's not hard to consume from your experience?
So myself, when I'm addressing new content, so when I consume new content, usually I'm like a newbie and I have a lot of questions in my head. And I always Google and ask, like, I dive deep into that rabbit hole when I want to learn something really good. Like, okay, so right now, like this other day, I was Googling, and I wanted to invest abroad. I want to see if maybe I can invest some to buy property in like another country, because you have some markets that are bad and some markets that are better. So I was Googling and going to this really weird rabbit hole. So I was Googling offshore investing and foreigner investing. And I was tackling a lot of different angles to the same topic in order to get into the information that I wanted. And I found this really cool pieces of content. And I'm pretty confident that, you know, if I would create content about this topic right now, I would tackle all of these keywords. Okay. So I would put myself in the shoes of the reader, which was me like 5 minutes ago, and I will put all of the different angles that will give value to people. Okay. And the type of questions that I had, I will try to answer with the content pieces that I create. And that's usually works for me in a good way.
Okay, got it. I have the question, what to do first, design or writing? Because, it's like the question, chicken or egg. I don't know, chicken or an egg, but what about design and writing? By the way, I often ask this question, and I didn't get the same answer.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
that's a good
marketers
question.
Yeah, some marketers are good with starting from writing. Others are good with starting with design. So your approach about that?
So my answer, which is the stupidest answer ever, and it would be it depends. So it depends on what you're building. Let's say that right now I need to create notifications for a mobile app, which is a very standard UX writing task. In that
Mm-hmm.
case, I'm probably going to have some kind of a component of design. So I will talk to my designer and I will try to understand the limitations of that notifications, means like how many words could I put in it. And based on those limitations, I would just start writing. I wouldn't wait for the design. If I'm going to create onboarding experience, the business goal of that onboarding experience would be to, I don't know, reduce the churn or increase the amount of retention. There is a lot of different tasks for product managers in different product teams around the world. So I would probably take some components from the design system that are already pre-designed and put my words into them. Then the designer would say, hey, let's change it a little bit. Usually it's a collaborative effort and not a thing that, one thing starts before the other. I believe it's a good mix of collaboration. I believe writers need to know design, like the basics of design, so they could work better with designers. And I believe that designers need to know how to write, so they could work better with writers. So designers could write even this headline should be about blah 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 blah, and then the writer could hop in and rewrite it. In addition to that, I can be writing a wireframe and add a component and say, hey, add here an illustration of a frog holding a biscuit, whatever. So as long as the collaboration is good, it doesn't matter what starts first, because it's either way, it's an iterative process that it doesn't matter how it starts. What matters is the end result. So the most important part is to collaborate on it very well. If you have a person that can do both, that's amazing. Sometimes you have someone like that. I can design and write. I'm better writer than designer myself. But yeah, it depends. That's my final answer.
Okay, got it. By the way, you mentioned this word collaboration, collaborate, and I found on your LinkedIn profile that you spent most of your time working to redesign the way writers and designers collaborate in product teams. Yeah, I called it a little bit. Can you tell about uniting designers and writers in one cohesive code? Because I see when they work separately. Probably copywriters can get the task to write text, designers can get the task to write to do design, but they are not working together, to create a cohesive piece of content that people want to consume. So after that, I don't know, content creators are trying to unite them. Can you tell about collaboration? How to unite designers and writers in one cohesive goal?
All right, so that's a very good question. I will step back and tell you a little bit about my background again. So I did the transition from graphic design to UX design, and I started to work in a product team of a company. And we didn't have writers that know anything about product design. So the content on the wireframes I've created was bad. It was in English. I'm not a native English speaker. And so we brought a writer on board. That writer didn't know nothing about product design. And that created really bad writing, not because she was a bad writer, but because she didn't have any context about user experience and user flows and writing in specific contexts. For example, if you write an error message, you can't write it like you're writing an ad right now. It needs to be very on point and very accurate. You can't go wild. So that's an issue I had. And I was like, okay, so we need to build bridges here. So we need to educate more writers about product design processes, which is something I'm doing to this day. I have this week, next week on the 15th of November, we start a Figma class for UX writers where I teach design writers, like the practicalities and the tools they need to use, and not the methodologies, but the actual tools. In addition to that, I teach designers how to write microcopy, best practices, how to write an error message, and so on. So I always think that there is an overlap. Writers should have some background in design, and designers should have some background in writing, and that's the best way to work together.
And I found the same. My customers need to understand SEO. If they understand SEO, we can get much higher results. If they don't, it's really hard. It's really hard to get results. I'm sorry for this noise because guys decided to cut grass close to my window. So yeah, okay, let's go ahead. Uh, let's talk about metric that all marketers hate or scare. I don't know. It depends. Bounce rate. For example, most content are bounced for a few seconds. For example, on YouTube, 80% of users bounce for 20 seconds. Uh, in the, only 5% of all books are read, because people usually don't read all books. And it's the same with website content. Can you tell how to retain readers longer? So, how to write text that give them a strong reason to read the entire text? Probably we can't get 100%, but how to improve bounce rate?
So the answer is pretty simple. It's all about the content. It doesn't matter how it's designed, how it's written, where it's at. If the content is good, people would find it useful, so people would stay and they wouldn't bounce. So the best example I can give is stuff like Reddit, even, which is a hub for a lot of interesting content. And sometimes, if you go to the design of Reddit originally, it looks like old HTML from the early 2000s. But the content is good, people answering each other on niche topics, and it's very useful. So the reason people stay and don't bounce is because of good content and nothing more, in my opinion. And I've seen it dozens of time in my career.
Yeah, so it's better to create good content. Can you tell how to
It's easy,
measure?
easy to say, how to do.
Okay, how to measure good content or not? For example, if I need to analyze existing content, and how do I know it's good or not?
Good is a subjective question. The question you need to ask is it performing well? For example, you can have content that drive billions of viewers to your website, but it fails to monetize because nobody is doing any action. They land on your website and that's it. So you don't monetize it. Would it be considered good? I don't know. Maybe it drove a lot of traffic. Is it good? I don't know. Um, Maybe you wrote a masterpiece that is brilliant, but it didn't landed on any page of Google and barely indexed. Is it considered bad? I don't think so. It's probably pretty good, but good or bad is a subjective question. But if we're talking about performance, so you have a lot of ways to measure performance, and you know the drill. Google Analytics, you can set up goals, you can see what articles are leading to what conversions on your website, and then iterate and optimize on that. Um, yes, that's how I usually build my content strategy, basically.
Okay, let me quote one more thing from your LinkedIn profile. My passion for creating exceptional user experiences spills over into the development and acceleration of fantastic conversation experiences. Can you tell more about passion? For example, I've seen many times when content creators chase some vague metrics without passion, without understanding. So, for example, if I write, I have passion of writing. If I can't write, I usually delegate the task to others. For example, if I know that I need this text, but I can't write because it's not my main experience, even if I don't like it, yeah, it's better to delegate or even skip, to forget about this task. Can you tell about passion? How to add passion to writing? Because I met many times text without passion, written for the sake of having them. That's not good. I can't measure them to good or bad content, but it doesn't bring any, I don't know, like feeling by reading this text. Can you tell more about passion?
So passion is it's hard to identify where your passions are. And by the way, your passion is going to change during the years. Today you're passionate about SEO. Maybe tomorrow you'll be passionate about mermaids. I don't know, but that's a more of a philosophical question, in my opinion, where to find your passion. And before you go to write anything, before you go to SEO, you need to think what what makes you wake up in the morning, what is interesting to you, what are your goals, what kind of information would you like to bring to this world, what kind of change would you like to bring to this world, how much do you believe in this thing, and based on that you can write a piece of content that will be persuasive enough. I met a lot of passionate writers. What makes a very good piece of content is their passion towards what they're doing, and it's not because they wanted to have a lot of traffic or a lot of followers or anything like that. They just created a piece that they thought is going to be important enough for the world to see. And they say to themselves, even if I change one opinion because of my piece, that's more than enough.
Yeah, well said. Love it. Yeah. By the way, I'm not passionate about SEO. I don't know. I'm passionate about many other things, but SEO for me it's like just search engine optimization methods, techniques that can help. But today SEO is not like 5-10 years ago. Today SEO is more related to user experience, to satisfying user intent. So yeah, and as you told, if you can change opinion of one human being, yeah, it will be great. For me, yeah, all marketers need to understand human beings first. I have the question
Let
about.
me let me tell you one thing before you continue. When I started out, UX writing wasn't a big deal. Nobody was talking about this topic. And I I found my passion in a way where I found myself preaching almost why it's important, because I saw the value in it while not a lot of people saw the value in it. And that gave me passion. The passion came from me bringing a change to this world, helping people to find a job in tech, meeting people from the biggest companies in the world, meeting the smartest people in the world, and having an access to the smartest people in the world. And that kind of stuff drove my passion. Um, in addition to that, I also can say my passion also it's changing, because I think today we live in a different world where a lot of people are understanding, okay, UX writing is a big deal, and I'm passionate about my business and my company. I managed to start as a freelance, and now I have a company with almost 50 people in this company, and I'm very proud of myself, and it gives me also a lot of passion. And I'm also seeing what kind of changes I would like to bring to this world. And these days, I'm also passionate about no-code development, which is the idea of building websites and apps without using code, and democratizing technology to people that can't use it, and keep doing educational stuff. And I believe that as long as I'm passionate about that kind of stuff, the content I will create always be attracting to more people, and that's why I can be confident and calm that it will be okay,
Nice, nice.
regardless to the industry that I'm working at.
Okay, I have the question about common mistakes. Can you tell what kind of mistakes companies, writers, or freelancers still do in user experience writing?
Common mistakes are starting from the solutions instead of identifying the problem. So a lot of time as a designer and as a writer, I saw a screen, I saw a design, and I was like, oh, what's the problem? That's the solution. Da 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 da. And then the magic wand drew the solution. But that's not the case. You need a lot of context in order to create exceptional UX writing. You need to know the exact status of the user. You need to know where they are in the user journey. You need to know how they define their own problems. You need to know what are their problems. You need to know from the product managers what kind of task would you like the people to create in the app. And there are a lot of different things you would have to consider before writing anything. So a huge error and a misconception that people have is to start from the solution. You need to start with a problem. Yeah, and not doing enough research is also a big issue. Do a lot of research, identify the problem to help you to avoid a lot of errors along the way.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about finding balance between research and actually do it. I remember Jeff Bezos once on his meeting shared that when he got data about research about a new product and specialists on his team told him we need more time to research more, to get more data. And he replied to them, no way, guys, nobody knows what actually works. We need to do, we need to implement, to analyze, learn from mistakes, improve, update, and going ahead. Can you tell how to find the balance between actually doing and researching? Because I see the same issue when companies over research, they learn a lot from tools, from data, but sometimes we don't know. Sometimes intuition can show us much better way. For example, I use my intuition when I write posts on social media, when I write blog posts. It's not research; it's my passion, to share something that I have in my mind. Can you tell about your way of finding the balance between research and over research and actually trying, testing, adapting, doing something?
So that's a good question, and you need to find the balance, as you said. You don't want to have analysis paralysis, where you know um, you have so much data that you don't perform and you don't do anything. Yeah. So what I would recommend is to start with the desired outcome. What exactly are we trying to create here? And based on that, perform. Sometimes 1 minute of research is enough to find a solution. Sometimes you need 6 months of research to find a solution. All that matters is what are you trying to achieve here. If you have your KPIs in place, if you have your measurements in place and everything that you would like to achieve, then it will probably be easier to take action. Okay, and that's more or less about it.
I have the question about, let's imagine you started from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills. What will you do today to learn more about UX writing?
If I'm starting from scratch, I would probably go to Google and search for resources. And I would start from free resources because there is a lot of free content out there, as you know, as a content producer. You can find on YouTube a lot of pieces of content. You can find blogs. You can find free courses. You can find podcasts. I'm hosting the Writers in Tech podcast. Check it out. And I will start with the free content. Then I would probably what I like to personally is to have someone that I look up to and have some kind of a vision or goal in my mind. So I would check what kind of opportunities exist in this landscape. Okay, so I can be director of content design and UX writing in a big company. Perfect. I will search how much money these people make, what kind of knowledge these people make. I will reach out on LinkedIn to this type of people and see like what they're all about and what is their background is like. And I will try to follow their step and even like take mentors that will help me to follow those steps. And that's about it. In addition to that, when time is right, I will also pay for training if I find it valuable enough.
Mhm.
Obviously,
Okay.
by the UX Training Hub. Uh, but
Okay.
yeah.
I have the final question. I remember, some quotes that TV could destroy uh, writing. Probably radio many years ago could destroy writing. Right now, we have many other things are coming like metaverse, augmented reality. And what do you think about new text? I mean, like new technologies, new environment. Writing is in dangerous or not? What kind of future will be in UX writing from your forecast about that?
So there are a lot of different technologies developing these days: AR, VR, metaverse, blockchain, and all of these nice words, Web3, whatever. At the end of the day, we have people and we are people, and what we do is to build technologies that will help people to make their lives better. I don't care if this big CEO guy of a big social network decides for everyone that from now on we will do metaverse, because nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. What I know is that as long as we focus on using technology to improve people's life, it doesn't matter what changes are going to come. We're going to be there and we're going to do our best work, and it's going to be fun.
Love your answer. Yeah, great answer. Whatever happens, just adapt. Marketers can do it. From our experience, we adapt many times to many things. So if you have experience, you can adapt much faster than many others. It's a big pleasure to get on my show to learn from you. Tell our
Thank you.
audience how they can reach out to you, learn more about you, follow you.
No problem. One last comment is that sometimes experience can block you from adoption. You see a lot of people in tech industry that, they have a lot of experience and they use old coding languages or old marketing methodologies. For example, they don't count TikTok as a potential platform to use, but
No.
it is something that you should consider. So adapt, adapt, adapt. It doesn't matter what you experience every day. Jeff Bezos says it, every day is day one. So adapt. About where to find me, go to my LinkedIn account. You can find it here. I'll put it here in the chat. That's my LinkedIn, Yuval Kesh, and check the podcast Writers in Tech, which I host and meet a lot of interesting people. Go to uxwritinghub.com, check our free course, it's a lot of fun. Or our weekly newsletter, or our weekly blog, it's fun as well. We write one for the robots, one for the people. You can take the one for the people. And what else? That's about it. Thank you for having me today, Anatoly. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a big pleasure. I send you a LinkedIn request. Guys, you can find the link to description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Subscribe to podcast with Yuval. Follow him on LinkedIn. You can see a lot of valuable insights. So if you want to improve your writing, just do it. Learn from Yuval and you can win in the long run. Okay, guys, love you. See you.